You know, if, for example, you feed to a polymer reactor, example, some a million molecules of the monomer, let us suppose like that. At least for the argument's sake, let us think like that. Do you think all a million molecules of the monomer polymerization will be there? Or like any other chemical reaction, even the efficiency of this reaction or the yield of this reaction is limited, not 100%. What is your opinion? This is an open question. Anybody can answer. Please speak. Answer. Do you think the yield of a polymer will be 100%? That all the monomer molecules you have supplied are incorporated into polymers, polymer chains? Hey, what is your answer? Yes or no? That's all my question is. I'm not getting your responses. Why?
The molecules which are having two binding sites.
The molecules? I mean, who is speaking first of all?
Nandita R.
Yes, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
The molecules which are having two bonding sites.
The molecules? It's not clear. Can you repeat again, please?
Which are having two bonding sites.
Yes. Yes. So
they undergo polymerization.
Yes, of course they undergo polymerization. I am not doubting that. But all the molecules you have supplied, they get incorporated, they get introduced into the polymer chains, or some fraction of the molecules will be still remaining monomers after the reaction. Example. That is my question.
Not all the molecules undergo, sir.
Yes,
part of the molecules undergo polymerization.
Yes, no, that is what I wanted, because this is the point from where we will start our discussion on degree of polymerization. So definitely, as your friend said, there is no 100% polymerization. Certain fraction of the molecules will be still remaining. Now, even if your polymerization reaction is highly efficient one, maybe you can expect a very high degree of polymerization above 95%. But so like we calculate an yield of a general chemical reaction, the same yield can be calculated for a polymerization reaction also. But here the yield is conceived in a different way. It is called degree of polymerization. So, you know, whenever we write the structures of polymers, this is how we represent them, right? This is the monomer, basically the lysine monomer and a polylysine. That's maybe a biopolymer. This is, and this is a heterocycle one. Like this, we go on representing polymers like this. And what does this N represent here? Always when we write a square bracket and write N, when we show a partial structure of a polymer, what does N, small n, represent? What does small n represent? Yeah, question. What does small n represent? Yes. Okay. So n is the number of units. Good. Number of monomeric units. Yes, correct. So n is the number of monomeric units. Very good. So degree of polymerization should do what? Should actually allow you to calculate this value of n, actual value of n. Is it not? But it is not possible to visualize each monomeric units and count them. So we should have some experimental methods to do this. What is the value of n? If you calculate it, find an answer, that will be the degree of polymerization. So the degree of polymerization is indeed calculated using some experimentally obtainable parameters like molecular weight of the polymer. So you can, this is almost like how you do your chemical yield calculation. Molecular weight of the product divided by molecular weight of the reactant into 100. Same thing you do here. Molecular weight of the polymer divided by molecular weight of the monomer. So degree of polymerization is calculated using this formula. In fact, from now onwards, we will not use the word molecular weight for a polymer. Rather, we will refine a bit and use words like average molecular weight, weight average molecular weight, number average molecular weight. This, these terms are regularly used in polymer chemistry. But why a molecular weight, which is a very well known, a very common term we use in chemistry, becomes average molecular weight in case of polymers? That is because if you look at the polymer's structure, basically, every chain is of not equal length, yeah? Is it not? In fact, uh, except in the case of biopolymers like proteins, if you take a sample of protein, do you think there is a single chain of protein? No, there will be a lot of chains of proteins, but all chains will have same number of amino acid units. But synthetic polymers are not like that. The polymers you synthesize. And as always, understanding this, taking an addition polymer is easier. Now I've made a polymer chain using some addition reaction. And these are the units that have been monomeric units that those have been incorporated. And in a polymer sample, you find chains of different lengths because you see a chain in it. Slight reminder about the mechanism of polymerization. How does polymerization take place? Initiates, is it not? So, for example, a double bond absorbs light or reacts with an initiator and becomes a free radical. And from free radical point, more free radicals are joined together through covalent bonds and a chain is elongated. But this joining process, now what do you think? This joining process is very homogeneous in the sense one molecule gets activated and it goes on binding to all monomers until all monomers is over? No, doesn't happen like that. Rather, like we have supplied a lot of molecules, millions of molecules in the sample. Many molecules get activated and they start as the first monomer of a chain. And when the chain elongation takes place, the chain termination need not stop at identical monomeric residues in all chain, right? A chain may stop at dimer, probably. One more chain can stop as a trimer. Usually chains, of course, dimers and trimers you find in a polymer sample, but they are very less in numbers, statistically speaking. But what is the point? That all chains are of not equal length, first of all. So, how to visualize a polymer sample now? Don't visualize a polymer sample as a single chain made up of monomeric residues. It is impossible to obtain a single chain, right? Rather, they are a collection of chains. Okay. And these chains are of unequal length. Every chain has its own molecular weight. In fact, every chain is an independent molecule now, basically. So polymer sample is what? You can think as a assembly of numerous molecules, which are of almost same identical chemical bonding wise, numerous molecules. And as always, these chains also interact amongst themselves. They can be bonded to each other through some forces that we will take up later. But every chain is a molecule now, independent molecule. So every chain has its own molecular weight. Like for example, this is the C10 chain. I mean, when you have only carbon backbone, a better index of chain is the carbon length. This chain is C10 length, whereas this is 16, this is 24. 24 is a bit long chain. Now you can call this a polymer. Maybe 10 and 16 you may not call polymer because they are oligomers. Maybe 24, 25 length you can call polymers. There can be a chain beyond C24 also, and there can be chains lying below C10 also, C2, C3, C4 also. So every chain has its own molecular weight. Now, if I ask you, what is the molecular weight of the polymer? You can turn the question back to me and ask, molecular weight of which chain are you referring? Is it not? So in the sense, you cannot segregate every chain and calculate its molecular weight. Impossible. Rather, we will take average molecular weight now. Fine. So what is the molecular weight of this chain? Next chain. But as I told you, this is not done counting every chain. This is done through some experimental methods. finding out average molecular weight, which we are discussing later in coming classes. So average molecular weight is like this. Now this is only a depiction. You can see a better diagram here. Of course, this diagram should have been vertical. Anyway, I just put it horizontal because of space congestion to accommodate in a single slide. Anyways, you can see dimer here, trimer, tetramer, pentamer, decamer, dimer again. There are two dimers. So like this, it happens. Now, if you want to calculate the molecular weight of the polymer, it is always the average of molecular weights of all the chains. So, like in our first formula, we just defined degree of polymerization as molecular weight of polymer divided by molecular weight of monomer. But here we are going to refine this a bit. Instead of molecular weight of the polymer, we use the term average molecular weight of the polymer. And of course, monomer molecular weight is fixed. Yeah, it doesn't have average. It is a single entity. Therefore, MO means molecular weight of the monomer. You divide these two terms, you will get degree of polymerization value. Now, why is this degree of polymerization important to us? Because you see, like we speak about properties of polymers in future, the properties of polymers are dependent on many factors. Now, one of the factors, not this is not the lone factor. One of the factors which controls the property of polymers is this degree of polymerization. Now you can have two examples, two cases, where a degree of polymerization is very low, and some other one more polymer sample, degree of polymerization is very high. So comparatively speaking, usually a polymer with high degree of polymerization is a better polymer in terms of its properties. Low degree of polymerization is not a better one. Therefore, to assess the quality of a polymer, finding out degree of polymerization is the first thing we do. As well as when now a biopolymer like a protein, what is its degree of polymerization? I mean, sorry, okay. Anyways, so if you take a biopolymer like protein and find out the degree of polymerization, it is very high. In fact, when we have very high degree of polymerization, we call such samples of polymers as monodispersions. If there is low degree of polymerization, we call polydispersed samples. Okay. Anyways, all those things we will also speak later. As well as the average molecular weight and degree of polymerization are related to each other always. And degree of polymerization is also obtained through some other methods also, not just always through molecular weight calculations. Through some methods on using kinetic methods also, you can calculate degree of polymerization. We will do later. As of now, you just understand the definition, basic definition of degree of polymerization. Now, you know, this is actually a real image of a polymer sample. The photographs of the polymers are taken at different pH. Don't worry about the pH. It's fine, because you know at pH 4.4 it is a globule. As you have decreased the pH and gone to 3.89, they have opened up, the chains have opened up and become more fibrous. Okay, it's fine, no problem. Don't worry about the shapes of the chains, but you just see the sizes of the chains, not the shapes. Yeah, the sizes of the chains. The size is varying, right? Few chains are very long, whereas few chains are very short. For example, a chain here is very long, whereas a chain here, this one, short. So why? Because this is a polydispersed sample. All chains are of not equal length. This is where the average molecular weight comes into very handy, becomes very useful to us. Okay, fine. So this is how polymer looks like basically, with all different chain lengths. And you know what happens during the solubility of the polymer, which we were talking about in the previous class. You have to break these chains and move them apart. So your solvent should be strong enough to go in between the chains and dissolve and surround the chains and make them soluble in a way like that. Therefore, I told you the solubility takes a long time. Why? Because the bonding between the chains For example, interchain bonding. Okay. So in ordinary molecules, this interchain bonding becomes your intermolecular force of attraction, not intra. Intra means within a molecule. I'm talking about interchain bonding. Of course, a polymer also has intra-chain forces of attraction, but that's not important for solubility. But interchain bonding is very strong in a polymer. So all chains will be very closely net. Therefore, breaking them becomes not an easy task. The solvent choice is very important. The temperature heating is required, and it takes a very long time for dissolution. Now, let us work out a simple numerical problem on calculating the average degree of polymerization. And you also see this. In this problem, the degree of polymerization is also referred as average degree of polymerization. It is fine. So there are different examples given here, questions. You have to calculate degree of polymerization. That's the n value. How many monomeric units are incorporated basically into the chain for all these polymers. So how to do that? You take the molecular weight of the monomer. You look at the structure of the monomeric unit, add the atomic weights, you get the molecular weight. And the average molecular weight of the polymer is already given in the question, 2,54,000. So all these polymers have the same average molecular weight, 2,54,000. But does this mean the degree of polymerization is same? No, of course. So I've just worked out for the third example. Okay. What is the monomeric residue here? Yeah, basically. Given average molecular weight of the polymer is 2,54,000. And molecular weight of the repeat unit, that's the monomer, is 95. Repeat unit is important. That's the monomer. So CH2CClCl. If you add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 atoms together, atomic weights, you get 95. And by the way, what is this polymer? Okay, what is the monomer? It's something like a dichloroethane, right? So the dichloroethane monomer is repeating it to give you more polymer chain. How to calculate the average molecular degree of polymerization now? Simply take the average molecular weight of the polymer, divide by 95, you get 2673.68. You do the same thing for different polymers given in the question. You don't get the value 2673 for all polymers. That's because degree of polymerization also depend on the move. Now, for small monomeric units, so divided by very small numbers, you get high degree of polymerization. Okay. For very large monomeric units like this, you see this, a very long one. This itself looks like an oligomer. The monomer itself looks like an oligomer, but this is the monomeric unit. Therefore, degree of polymerization will be lower for higher molecular weight polymers, provided you are comparing that with the same value of average molecular weight. Fine. So this is one point. Now we'll go into a very important aspect called polymer structure. Polymer structure can be understood at different levels. Fine. It's like finding out the structure of your organic compounds. Yeah. For that, you do a lot of techniques. You use spectroscopic techniques as well as chemical, physical techniques. Get the answers. The structures. Same thing, polymer. But in polymer structure, what is important to us is we need not do an NMR, or we need not do use an spectroscopic technique to find out the actual bonding structures, because the monomer is already known to us, is it not? We are working with a known monomer. For example, polythene, if you take ethene is the monomer, we know it. So then what is the structure mean polymers? It is now beyond the monomeric structures, chemical structure of monomers. It is more on how these monomers are linked to each other, how the chains are linked to each other, and what is the shape after the linking of all the chains. For example, is the polymer a globule shape or a network shape, fibrous shapes? Such things we are going to look at in polymer structures. But there are two important levels, important domains at which we see polymer structures. We study polymer structures. One is the macro structure and micro structure. Macro structure is more connected with the structure of a single chain. Okay. So please understand here. In macro structure, we are always worried about the structure of a single chain. So what do we mean by that structure of a single chain? What would be the first information if I give you a chain structure? What is the monomer? That constitute macro structure. What is the monomer? What is the number of monomers? That's your degree of polymerization. That will be another aspect of macro structure. What is the average molecular weight? That again is an aspect of macro structure. And 4 more things we should find out. If we are defining the macro structure of a polymer, we have to list all these things for fully defining a macro structure. Now, I think these are the 3 terms we already know. What are the homo chain, hetero chain, homopolymers, and copolymers? These things we will discuss further. But before that, I want to draw your attention to one important element in the point in the polymer study is that okay, anyways, let's start with this. What is this? Yeah, which is this polymer? What is the name of this polymer? What is the name of this polymer? Yeah, got an answer. Polyethylene. Good, yeah. This is polyethylene. So, but the name suggests polyethylene. Don't try to find double bonds in the polymer chain. Don't try to find double bonds in the polymer chain. Although the name is polyethylene, because the ethene monomer has polymerized to give you this chain. Basically, what is polyethylene? A chain of polyethylene is what? Simply a long chain of alkane. Is it not? Long chain of alkane. That is what polyethylene is. It's pure hydrocarbon and pure alkane. No other functional groups, not even multiple bonds. I mean double, triple bonds. Therefore, polyethylene is nothing but a long chain of alkane. But why is it called ethene? Because the monomer was ethene to make this polymer. Now, that's what I told. So here you have to be careful enough to not to make a mistake of the monomer with the structural unit. What is the monomer in case of polyethylene? Ethene. Is it not? CH2, CH2, ethene. What is the monomer in case of polythene? Of course, here the terms monomers and structural units are most of the times used interchangeably. Although you get such informations interchangeably presented information, you should have a clarity within you how to differentiate them. So the monomer of polythene is ethene. Whereas what is the structural unit of polythene? This is the structural unit, CH2, CH2. The structural unit is the one which, when repeated over and over, again and again, you should get the polymer. So identify the structural unit first. This is very important. And even for calculation of the degree of polymerization, it is not the monomer mass we have taken. It is monomer mass we have taken. It is rather the structural unit mass we have taken. Is it not? Anyway, we can go back, or you can watch it later also. Therefore, a monomer unit and a structural unit may be different. There may be small changes in structure from a monomer unit and a structural unit. For example, double bond is missing here, is it not? So it is a CH2, CH2. So you have got all carbons bonded, catenation, long chain to give an alkane chain. That is what polyethylene is. So to get a polymer, you have to try to identify the structural unit first. So how to identify the structural unit? You see this. For example, polystyrene. What is the monomer of polystyrene? Styrene. But when you convert this into polymer, you find missing double bonds. It's only, what will be the monomer now? CH2, CH, C6H5 will be the monomer. Will be the structural unit. Now, with respect to addition polymerization, this is quite easy because the molecular weight doesn't change. Molecular weight of a monomer in a polystyrene and molecular weight of every structural unit are identical, same, because the double bond doesn't have weight. But in copolymerizations or in condensation polymerization, this is it. Okay. Now, all of you send your names in the chat box before I stop because I'm running out of time now. You please send your names in the chat box for the attendance sake. I'll just continue for another 5 minutes and leave you. Start again at 10 o'clock. Now look at this. So polystyrene, monomer, structural unit. There is the double bond has opened up and polymerization has taken place.